Episode 7 opens with Max finally waking up beside Lucas and the rest of their friends. She admits that her body still feels weak and unresponsive, explaining that being unconscious for so long left her muscles unable to function properly. Lucas tells her that he never once believed she was truly gone. Max reassures him, revealing that even while trapped in the darkness, she could still see him sitting by her side, playing her favorite song. But now she understands something important. It wasn't the music that kept her alive. It was Lucas, refusing to give up and continuing to fight for her. Soon after, Mike and 11 rush in, relieved and overjoyed to see Max awake again. Robin then jumps in, explaining how they were chased relentlessly by the monsters and came dangerously close to death until Mike's mother showed up and managed to take them down. As the moment settles, Max grows serious and warns everyone that Vecna will not take her escape lightly, and once he realizes she slipped out of his control, his anger will be unstoppable. At the same time, Holly regains consciousness inside Vecna's lair, where she sees her classmates trapped and restrained just as she is. Gathering all the strength she has left, she fights through the psychic hold and tears herself free from the living material binding her. From where she stands, she gets a clear look at Vecna in his terrifying form, positioned at the heart of the nest. She immediately tries to escape, only to realize there is nowhere to run as she is stuck in a barren, lifeless world. Moments later, Vecna becomes aware that the girl has finally awakened. The focus then moves to the Upside Down, where Jonathan repeatedly tries to force the doors open until Nancy stops him. She warns that if he gets hurt, they will have no hope of getting out alive. Without warning, the wall starts shaking intensely, and a crack suddenly forms, allowing their friends to break through and rescue them. Steve explains that they were unable to communicate earlier because the radio antenna was damaged during the trip. Meanwhile, Dustin reveals Dr. Brenner's notebook from 1983, which contains crucial details about how the portals were created and what they truly are, although they are still working to fully understand the information. To make matters worse, they also deliver the disturbing news that Holly is nowhere to be found on the other side of the wall. At the same time, Holly sprints forward with every ounce of strength she has, but stumbles when she hits a dip in the ground. When she looks closer, Max's warning about the portals Vecna created across the town comes rushing back to her. Realizing what it might be, she starts tearing away the stones to widen the rift. When she notices Vecna closing in on her, she makes a split-second decision and dives into the opening. Instantly, she is falling from the sky, and her terrified screams echo loudly enough for the others to hear. Back in the real world, Mr. Clark, Murray, and Erica stand by the edge of the lake, using balloons in an attempt to catch a radio signal that could lead them to Dustin. After 6 long hours with no success, they're on the verge of giving up, but Mr. Clark comes up with a plan, makes a last-second decision, and cuts the tether, letting the balloon rise higher into the sky. At last, the increased height allows them to lock onto the correct frequency and pick up the signal. Still shaken by everything that has happened, Will thinks back to his final encounter with Vecna, when he was commanded to act as a spy one last time. At that moment, his mother arrives with the news that Max has finally regained consciousness. Despite this, Will remains deeply afraid, knowing from Lucas that today is the day Vecna plans to attack. He understands better than anyone that he cannot stand up to him, which is exactly why Vecna selected him as a vessel, to channel his power, observe others, and slowly spread his influence. Night after night, Will unknowingly linked himself to the hive mind, controlling the vines to carve tunnels and connect the two worlds. Joyce tries her best to comfort him, but Will is overwhelmed and breaks down in tears. Meanwhile, Max shares with the group what she experienced with Holly and the warning she gave about going back home. Soon after, Erica contacts Lucas with the update that they can now track the others through the radio frequencies. However, the growing military presence leaves them with little time, forcing them to flee quickly. Despite being injured, Karen insists on joining the fight, but Mike stops her, urging her to trust him and the others instead. He promises that they will save his sister, just as they once saved Will. Soon after, the entire group comes back together, just as they succeed in tracking down Dustin through the radio signal. Mike tells him that it seems Holly managed to break free from Vecna and is trying to make her way home, meaning they have to reach her as soon as possible. However, Dustin drops a surprising revelation. They have already located the girl. Even so, moving through the facility proves impossible, as the military has cameras watching every corner. Mr. Clark proposes blocking the surveillance feed, but 11 immediately solves the problem by using her powers to destroy the cameras. With the path cleared, she once again uses her abilities to lift the massive metal plates sealing the dimensional openings. After passing through the rift, they quickly reunite with the other team on the opposite side.
Nancy explains that they heard the girl screaming just as she arrived, but before she could even fully touch down in that world, Vecna seized her again and pulled her away. At the same time, he drags the child back into his lair, imprisoning her once more within the living tissue that binds her directly to him. As they begin discussing their next plan, Will reaches the field and reunites with Max, who jokingly calls him a wizard. Later, back at their base, Max is filled with guilt over leaving Holly behind, but Lucas reassures her that attempting a rescue at that moment would have ended in disaster. Dustin then cuts in, revealing that he knows exactly where Holly is being held, though he warns that reaching her will be far more difficult than it sounds. He explains that a massive interdimensional bridge formed from exotic matter is what keeps the rift stable, and that this structure is buried deep within the heart of the lab. Beyond this bridge lies a strange, empty dimension where the monsters exist, including Vecna himself. Putting the pieces together, Robin realizes that Vecna has been hiding high above us all along. Will adds that Vecna targets children to control their minds and strengthen his abilities. Drawing from her own encounter, Max now understands Vecna's true objective, to merge every world into a single reality. Lucas finishes by noting that if their theory is correct, Vecna is preparing to make his final move today. At the same time, Henry, also known as Vecna, invades the children's minds to prove that he has taken Holly back. He twists the truth, claiming that Holly ran away by her own choice because of Max's guidance, portraying Max as a hidden villain. Through his lies, Vecna convinces the children that returning to the other world will only lead to their deaths. He then pretends to surrender, suggesting that Derek may be right and that the darkness has already won. However, the children refuse to lose hope. Instead, they decide to reach out to Holly together, determined to help her understand the truth and stand with them. Later, when the military discovers that their facility has been breached and the metal plates had been forced open, they quickly realize that 11 is responsible. As a result, they make the decision to pursue her to the other side. Meanwhile, Hopper suggests they steal a helicopter to reach Vecna's realm by flying through the rift. The group quickly starts arguing, with some insisting the plan is far too dangerous. Then Steve proposes an alternative, using their radio tower. He explains that they should wait for the precise moment when Vecna begins merging the worlds, as this will bring them close enough to cross directly into the prison dimension. Once inside, 11 will confront Vecna in his mind, while Kali and Max volunteer to guide her, drawing on their intimate knowledge of every corner of that world. Later, Holly regains consciousness and finds herself surrounded by the other children, who greet her with warm smiles. They insist that Vecna only wants to protect them. Holly tries to make them understand that Vecna is actually a monster, keeping them trapped in his mind where nothing around them is real. Spotting Derek, she urges him to help reveal the truth, but the boy clings to what he saw and chooses to believe Vecna's deception. Realizing she is outnumbered, Holly pretends to go along with them, feigning regret. As soon as an opportunity presents itself, she pushes the other children aside in an attempt to clear a path toward the exit. However, being overwhelmed, she is quickly overpowered and ends up tumbling down the stairs. In the real world, the team splits up to take their assigned positions. While 11 works on retrieving the truck they'll use for the mission, Hopper speaks with Joyce, noting that the girl seems fearless, almost invincible. He senses that Joyce doubts his faith in 11. Despite this, Hopper emphasizes that his only priority is ensuring 11 returns safely from the other side. He also warns that Kali makes a single mistake, he won't hesitate to act against her. Joyce tries to soothe him, reminding Hopper that this is their final mission. At the headquarters, Max explains to Will that she survived inside Vecna's mind by finding a hidden cave tied to an old, fearful memory. Meanwhile, the rest of the team prepares for the impending battle. Noticing that most of them have little experience with guns, Dustin decides to arm Steve with homemade spears for the fight. Shortly after, Steve finds a quiet moment to apologize to Dustin for the harsh words he had said earlier. He admits that his anger came from missing his best friend so much. Dustin accepts the apology, and the two of them share a heartfelt brotherly hug to solidify their reconciliation. Far away, Erica keeps a careful watch over the military base. As soon as the gates swing open, she signals to replicate the frequency that controls the security systems. Meanwhile, Murray struggles with engine problems in the truck. Kali and 11 connect their minds to communicate. 11 points out that destroying the bridge would finally put an end to the lab and Dr. K's experiments. Kali, however, warns that they could always rebuild it and the experiments would continue. 11 suggests they will escape, but Kali reminds her that it's only a matter of time before they are discovered and their friends are killed, just as it happened to her. She explains that Dr. K would simply recapture her, use her blood to create more gifted children, and open new portals. A relentless, cruel cycle will be going on. Yet Kali says there is a way to end it. If they kill Vecna, rescue the children, and remain on the other side, they could vanish along with that world, putting a stop to everything. Their conversation is abruptly interrupted when the truck finally roars to life. As the team gets into position and loads the gear for the upcoming battle, Will approaches his mother to share the full truth. He explains that when Vecna attacks, he twists a person's mind against them, causing pain from within. Will recounts that he was able to resist in the past by holding on to the positive memories of his childhood, which allowed him to take control and defeat the creatures. But when he tried the same tactic against Vecna, the entity overpowered him, forcing him to witness the most terrifying visions he had ever seen. He realizes that Vecna knows all his secrets, but now, thanks to Max, he understands that even Vecna can feel fear, and with this knowledge, Will knows he can fight back. Feeling he must first confide in his mother, he begins to share his secret, but their conversation is interrupted when Mike announces they have only 5 minutes before departure. Determined, Will decides to tell the truth to the entire team so they can face what's coming together. Once everyone is gathered, he admits that he has always felt different but pretended to be like everyone else to fit in. He explains that he isn't attracted to women. He explains that Vecna once showed him a future where revealing this truth caused his friends to treat him differently, eventually isolating him and leaving him alone. Joyce reassures him that she will never abandon him, and one by one his friends echo the sentiment, enveloping him in a group hug. Turning to 11, Will says they cannot defeat Vecna without him, and declares that he is ready to join the fight, no longer gripped by fear. As night falls, the team speeds toward the military base in the truck, charging at full throttle. The soldiers immediately open fire, but Hopper fights back, taking down several of them from his position. Dr. K and the remaining troops emerge to confront the group, only for Nancy to spring into action, joining the gunfight to provide covering fire. With Hopper safely inside the truck, the team seizes the moment and slips through the rifts, crossing over to the other side of the portal. The air is heavy with dark energy, signaling that the ultimate confrontation is near. Meanwhile, within Henry's mind, he and the children spend the night preparing and strengthening their bond for the final assault. And episode 7 ends right here.